Welcome back to Status Update, the creator-led podcast that you can listen to at work because it is a work podcast. I'm Stevie Johnson, MD of influencer marketing agency Disrupt.
And I'm Jake, marketing manager at that very same influencer marketing agency Disrupt and the voice of Gen Z. Now, today's guest is social media superstar, author, host of the Referral Podcast and NHS surgeon, Dr. Karan Rajan.
You're putting a freshly brewed coffee up your ass. How can you actually do that seriously and be expected to be taken seriously?
Yeah.
That's not the correct route.
In today's podcast, we want to answer the question, does social media do more harm than good? So let's go get Dr. Karan from the green room and see if we can find out. Okay, cool. So we start with the questions from the hat segment, which I think to date has had mixed results.
Yeah, it's been
It's been
semi-successful, I think I'd call it so far.
a mix of like personal and funny questions / work. But anyway, let's crack on. So Jake, do you want to pick from my hat first? Or do you want me to go
Yes.
first? Or
So I will just say, Karan, last time we did this, I ended up having to sing, which isn't, my...
it was a Beyonce song,
It was a
wasn't it?
Beyonce song, yeah. If an actor had to play you in your life story, who would it be? Obviously, it's going to have to be someone like incredibly good looking.
How do you not already know like the answer like that? I know what my
Do you?
I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I think someone I really would like would be like a Jonah Hill or someone who's got real range, real talent, kind of physically quite similar to me. So yeah, I think obviously you'd have to do a good Norwich accent. But yeah, Jonah Hill would be. Yeah.
I always like to say Jake Gyllenhaal because I think at university once someone made the comparison and I've really for
You've
the last
never
15
let it go.
years
Yeah.
held on to it. I used to get Claire Balding sometimes as well, which
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
is
fair.
an idea. Any ideas for you, Karan, who would play you?
Well, it's got to be someone brown. I reckon, someone who's a good actor, who's, broken a lot of ground would be like Dev Patel.
Yes.
Love Dev
Yeah.
Patel.
Get the facial beard right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I reckon
He's
it'd
got
be
that
good.
new movie coming out, which apparently got a standing ovation at one of the
Monkey
film
something?
festivals.
Yeah, the Monkey Man,
Man.
or
Yeah, it looks
something.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
It
he's
looks cool.
directed and everything.
It does look very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
He's
Okay.
great.
Stevie, would you like to pick from my hat?
Yeah. Okay, great. I normally get serious questions from Jake, which is ironic because you think I'd be the one asking the serious questions, all right?
Yeah. I'm a serious
Oh my
guy.
gosh. What is a conspiracy theory you really believe in? That's quite deep.
There we go.
It's probably quite a good one actually with Karan here as well.
Yeah.
Busting some of the health myths and so on out there. A conspiracy theory I really believe in. Do you know what? I don't actually think there are any big conspiracy theories I believe
That's
in.
a cop out. That's a cop out.
But I can't think of anything right now. What I will say is I do love going down rabbit holes on social media around conspiracy theories.
Okay.
I find that super entertaining. But in terms of like actual conspiracy theories,
None.
none.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
My big one would always be the pyramids. I just love talking about how they ended up where they are. What about yourself, Karan?
I love the one that people talk about, that there's a cure for cancer that exists. And it's
Yeah.
being suppressed and hidden by pharma
Yeah.
companies or the powers that be.
Yeah.
And that basically ultimately comes down to people's lack of understanding about cancer. They think it's one disease, that there's just one cure. There's literally thousands of different types of cancer. And we already have cures for some types of cancer.
Yeah.
So that's me. That's
Yeah.
what, people always, there's a cure and, they just want money. They're
It's a
hiding
money
it.
maker.
I can already tell that I'm going to love the next like half an hour that we've
Yeah,
got with
so
Karan.
am I.
It's gonna
Yeah,
be, It's going to be so good. You get to choose from my hat where there are questions for Jake's or Jake's hat where there are questions for me for one for yourself to answer.
Okay.
So think wisely. Choose wisely.
I like the yellow, so let's go.
Yeah, all right.
Yellow.
So
No
I
one
wrote-
ever seems wants to pick from my hat.
I wrote these
will
for
just-
Jake. All right, you just pick any from there.
Let's go with that one.
I hope
What
it's
we
a
got?
serious one, please.
Okay. What is your top tip for improving engagement on social? That is a good question. My top tip would be, and something I've changed my mind on, right now, it would be aim to tell a story, whatever you do. And I think that is the ultimate form of engagement. If you look back to prehistoric times when people were drawing paintings on, caves, to now people sitting by a fire, a storyteller, that story has been the ultimate audience retention tool. Because people want those breadcrumbs to keep following. And if you can tell a good story, you'll go viral. You'll get that optimized retention time and all those good kind of metrics that you're thinking about. Yeah. And even when I talk about health stuff, I don't just give facts. I'll give the story, why this video is wrong, what's the background of the health information, how you can apply it in your life, and what you can do next. It's like you need to... just give someone the kind of footsteps to
take them on the journey sort of thing.
Yeah. People love that. People will be hooked on the stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a great answer.
Narrative.
I think with the work that we do at Disrupt for our clients and working with influencers, we're always pushing kind of a storytelling narrative there. And I think the way that, and I don't want to get too deep into technicalities of like social and digital right now, but the way that search is evolving, not just through TikTok, but also Google, those first person narratives and storytelling are only going to become more and more important to help you rank on these search platforms, but also to, again, build that trust for audiences as well. What a question for you to answer, Karan. I love the fact that
I wouldn't have been able to give a better answer than that. No, so I'm really glad that you got it instead of me.
Me neither. One of the things we ask all of our guests that come on this podcast when we kick things off is to see if you can recount a status update that you made when you first joined social media that you look back on now and maybe cringe a little bit.
I can probably get it up because I've got like my old profile on social media as well as my kind of social stuff more recently. And I think probably something when I was on Facebook when I started not medical school, but when I was a first year doctor, my first day. Okay. I was dressed in kind of chinos and a shirt, right? Yeah. And I wrote, "Stressed, depressed, but well dressed." Yeah. And I just thought, you know what? That's going to be a great caption.
Can we get a camera picking that up at all? The photo,
yeah,
just
good. Just make sure you blur out the not people following me on my personal thing. Yeah.
Very good. So it's a bit of a rogue ass from me.
I reckon, I was rocking that plaid shirt and the chino as well.
It was a strong look back then.
It was a strong look. It
still is now.
It's a classic, isn't it? Chinos and shirt. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was great. I mean, that's really I think that's the first one we've had so far with a visual aid as well.
Yeah, exactly. Which is really, really good. Quite a journey then for you on social when you look back at that initial status that you cringed at to where you are today. What sparked your mission to debunk health-related myths and all the other content that you create on social?
So I actually started on social media, on YouTube in 2012, in like sort of the early bad old days of YouTube where anything was flying around. And I made more content directed towards health professionals, like, how-to examinations, things like that. And then it was only in 2019 when I was at work and I was just on TikTok and I saw all of these videos and one of my mates said, you should post on there. You're always on that TikTok app or whatever. You should post on there. And I was like, what can I post? And he's like, I don't know, tell me some interesting facts. And I said, oh, did you know that your stomach acid can dissolve razor blades, or you have more microbial cells in your body than human cells? And he's like, do you know what? Those are crazy facts. Just put it on there. Yeah. Put those facts on there. I was in scrubs. We're on call and we were about to go to surgery. And I said, 3 weird medical facts. Did you know? And I just 3 of them, 30 seconds, put the automatic captions on. We went and did the surgery. We came back, looked at our phone, or looked at my phone, and it had like 120,000 views, which for me back then when I had like 500 followers, which is incredible. Yeah. And people saying more. Yeah. And that's when I realized, 2019, 2020, people are just interested in information and education and value. Yeah. And I thought, let me keep doing this. And then my first series on TikTok was weird medical facts. I did 1 through to 99. People loved it. And then I realized there's all sorts of health stuff, gut health, brain health. People just want to know stuff. And that's when 2020 pandemic hit. Yeah. Science became sexy again. Yeah. And it was like a match made in heaven.
So for the first 7 years on social, your content was directed at other health professionals, almost like a traditional B2B sense, right? Yeah. And then it was only after 2019 that actually started to go to the mass public with some of these things, and that's where you've seen that growth.
Yeah, and you know what? Like I would say about 15,000 followers on my YouTube channel. Okay. From 2012 to 2014, right? I had like a little cult following. Loads of medical students in the UK and around the world would watch my content to help them revise for exams. So, I was kind of building something, but it was so slow and so difficult to do. But it was those years that helped me define the consistency in posting and things. Because 2012 to 2020, I basically had next to no traction, but I still posted on a regular basis. And there was 8 years of social media famine. And then suddenly, boom, it just went out there.
Well, your content type must have developed quite a lot, right? Because if you're originally posting like for your community, like people like in that healthcare world, you must have been using quite a lot of like jargon and like industry specific terminology, which people like me and Stevie probably have no idea what you're talking about. Because your content now on TikTok and Instagram and YouTube is like so light-hearted, funny, easy to understand. I mean, that must have been a real reason for the boom in your following.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that was very niche. And then I realized I pivoted towards like more public health engagement. And I realized, I just want to do simple things that anyone can watch, any demographic. Someone who's 12 or 80 are interested in constipation or health information.
Yeah.
And I just want to provide actionables to people. Social media is a transaction. If you're a creator, what can you give someone to stop them for 60 seconds? Why should they spend 60 seconds of their time watching you? What are you giving them? Not, hey, welcome to my life. Who cares about you? Yeah, I don't care. Give me something. Like, give me some facts. Give me some information. That's what I realized.
I think the you touched on it being an education piece, and that's a very powerful part of social media for me. Actually, is yes, that storytelling. But if you can educate someone, it doesn't have to be in healthcare. It can be across any field. I think that's where you can see some of the best results. And again, with the brands that we work with, when it's a new product launch or whatever it might be, being able to educate the audience in a right, engaging way can have the most impact really from it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you do it really well, because I've looked through a lot of your content, but even from like you do a few cooking videos and stuff like that, you don't seem to be like pigeonholed by the facts, figures of like medicine and stuff. You kind of really take it outside the box and make it, like I've already said, it's so easy to understand and entertaining.
Can I pinpoint one of your videos which I absolutely love, and I want you to explain it more to me, because I was fascinated by it. I'm fascinated by a lot of your content, but it was a video where you described hangry being a real thing, and it's not just the word. It's on a cerebral level rather than just a physical level. Yeah. And there was a bit of jargon in that I didn't quite understand, but I think for a lot of people, is it a myth that you can't get hangry? But you kind of explained it in such a good way.
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that being hungry is an emotion just as much as fear, anxiety, happiness, or sadness is an emotion. When you have like a response to like something and that causes fear, there's a brain region called the amygdala, which is like the fear center or emotional center of your brain, which is more active. Similarly, you see brain changes on a physiological level, chemicals, neurotransmitters when you're hungry.
Yeah.
It's a chemical hormonal process. It's not just like, something which happens. So actually, when you're hungry, that can elicit some of the similar physiological changes that you see in your body as when you're angry.
Wow.
So you do need to correct that as well. So that's what I thought very interesting about these things.
Hanger is a real thing, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah.
It is. You mentioned COVID earlier, and obviously you coming onto TikTok in 2019. With everything that happened with lockdown and, as you said, like health becoming sexy again, did that also help building your audience and your authority in the space at a time when everyone was searching for right information, etc.? So
by the time the pandemic really, took like a real strong foothold in the UK, I think around sort of February, April 2020, I'd already been making content for a number of months now. And I think I'd had maybe something along the lines of a few 100,000 followers by this point on TikTok anyway, a couple 200,000 or 300,000 followers. And so I'd already had some degree of following. But then when the pandemic hit, I saw lots of misinformation about, okay, you should drink urine to help you against COVID or this and that, all sorts of weird, wonderful things. And when I started making information to debunk these conspiracy theories or just flat out misinformation, that obviously got pushed to the top of the For You page and people's streams a lot more, because people wanted the answers to these questions. Are vaccines safe? How can they make a vaccine so quickly? What is COVID? How is it transmitted? How can you keep safe? Are masks useful? Are gloves useful? And I remember one of the first videos which went truly viral and internationally viral was a video, and you probably remember in the beginning of the pandemic, people were going to supermarkets and wearing these blue do rubber gloves everywhere.
I did it.
Oh, I did, yeah.
Right? And I was thinking, because after a night shift, I was waiting in the line at Tesco's when everyone was trying to stock up on toilet roll. And I was like, fuck me, why are all these people wearing rubber gloves everywhere? And then I thought, because I use rubber gloves a lot at work,
Yeah.
we know every time you have contact with a patient, you have to change your gloves. Because otherwise, you're just transferring the germs everywhere.
Yeah.
So actually, the gloves are terrible because you're just accumulating all these germs everywhere, right? You just wash your hands instead if you're that concerned. And I made a video at the end of my night shift wearing a rubber glove, and I drew, with like a felt tip pen, how it works that you're accumulating germs. I went to sleep. I woke up. I got email requests from Lad Bible and all of these other major outlets and newspapers and online blogs wanting to use that video. People from Egypt, Malaysia, Singapore, Australia, America were posting it. It was on all these international magazines, Vogue, Elle, Cosmopolitan. And I was like, wow, that's the power of that short video. And that was basically...
But I suppose that came at a time where everyone was just terrified of going outside anyway. And then to have it just shown to them so simply about, okay, don't wear gloves, this is why.
Yeah.
It's like peace of mind almost, isn't it?
That's it. And that's when I really thought, you know what, this is really a powerful tool to just disseminate public health information.
Yeah.
You've got the WHO and you've got all these governments, and it's fair to say that there was a cock up during the pandemic from top-down organizations communicating simple messages. And I just thought sometimes the WHO doesn't know how to engage the people they're trying to engage.
Speak to the everyman, yeah.
Yeah, and I thought maybe I can do it better.
Yeah.
You mentioned during the pandemic, obviously, that spread of misinformation. Do you think on a social media level now, with the growth of different social platforms and so on, and more people creating content, that there is, for want of a better word, an epidemic around misinformation online that's only increasing?
Absolutely, because, okay, I'm in the science space and the health space, but often straightforward facts and science isn't sexy. What is sexy is sensationalism and extremes and polar opinions. And we've seen that with a lot of people. People who are saying vegetables are terrible, you only have to have a raw meat diet, or people saying this is bullshit, you need only this. The polarizing views captures attention and makes people stop.
Yeah.
And a lot of people who maybe don't believe in what they're talking about do that for the sake of growing an audience, being really controversial, being polarizing. And that's a great short-term strategy, but for long-term sustainability and growth and to building a community, I don't think it's ideal at all. And that's the epidemic now. People want to purposely misinform to gain a following.
Yeah. To be shocking.
Yeah. Like the guy, there's a guy out there who's got like 1.5 million Instagram followers, and he constantly promotes perineal sunning, basically being butt naked and showing your bits and your crown jewels to the sun. Because apparently that it increases oxygenation and this and vitality and fertility, and it's all complete bullshit.
Yeah, I'm guessing there's not much science behind that.
No, and he's got 1.5 million followers of suckers following him.
And I guess the sensationalism around a lot of these health gurus online who have amassed these followers. I mean, what do you really think about people like that?
The truth is that a lot of these people don't have the qualifications to back up what they claim and who they are. For example, one of my friends, he's a neuroscientist in America. He's an actual neuroscientist, works in a lab. He posted a video stitching another video of a guy saying, "Hi, I'm X, Y, and Z. I'm a neuroscientist, and these are 3 foods that can improve your brain health." And my friend did some deep diving on him. He's got no qualification that proves he's a neuroscientist, that guy. So it's like someone can just buy a pair of scrubs on Amazon, a stethoscope for 20 quid, and just put it on, and everyone is none the wiser. You can be a doctor. How do you prove that? People can look me up and see that I'm affiliated with XYZ hospital. You can see my GMC certificate, all these things. But how can you prove all of these people are doctors?
Do you think platforms then need to have a bit more responsibility in this widespread of misinformation? I mean, I know Twitter has got community notes now.
Yeah. So
the communities can go on and say, actually, that's not true. But other than that, there isn't really much stopping the spread of misinformation. What do you reckon you'd like to see in terms of stopping the spread of misinformation around health?
I mean, the truth is, for these social media platforms, the more misinformation they have, the better it is for them.
That's so true.
Because it's more engagement. More engagement means more hours spent by users on the platform equals more money that they can charge advertisers, and more advertisers they can get on board. That's all they care about. Yeah. Sometimes they might be like, okay, we'll try and clamp down. But are they really? I've seen no reduction in nonsense online. I've only seen it grow wider and wider.
Yeah, it's the same with I did a talk at Web Summit last year. It was around the use of AI and content creation and influencer marketing. And one of the things in my research that came to the fore, again, different to healthcare, but was platforms right now with regards to AI don't actually want to do anything because it's helping them. They're able to monetize it. You look at Zuckerberg and Meta and everything they're doing there. And as a result, they're like, hands off at the moment, and it's getting to a stage where governments are the ones that are going to need to step in as a result. I mean, a bit of a curveball from what you were talking about, but it just goes to show that these social platforms, as long as there's more and more revenue for them as part of it, they actually don't want to do anything.
Yeah, no, that is a very good point.
I think misinformation will continue to increase now that we have more generative AI tools. Yeah. Where someone can be a faceless channel and just produce, using Mid-Journey and ChatGPT, produce hours of endless content, which could just be bullshit.
Scary to think about. What's the strangest health myth that you've busted, would you say, or you've come across and you thought it's not even worth my time to try and bust it?
Probably something like coffee enemas. You know,
God,
like
right.
there's a bodybuilder I follow online, and I thought for a number of years that he was legit. He was in good shape, and he was talking about like positive health sort of stuff. And then increasingly over the last kind of couple of years, I've seen him talking about a lot of these anti-aging longevity things.
Yeah,
he goes to a clinic in Berlin and gets like, I don't know, injections of some kidney cells, or you know, he's shoving coffee enemas up his bottom, and he talks about it with a serious face.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're putting a freshly brewed coffee up your ass. How can you actually do that seriously and be expected to be taken seriously?
Yeah.
That's not the correct route. That's an exit passage.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, do you know what? I'm not even going to bother, because if you've got any brain cells, you know that's not something that you'd want to do. So I'm not even going to bother.
Do you still follow him?
I still follow him because it's interesting to see what new stuff he comes up with. I'm just interested now to see.
Yeah, you'll off camera. You'll have to let us know who it is, because I really want to start following this.
I didn't expect that answer to that question going that way, but
no. Oh, that's great. Yeah, coffee enema.
Yeah, you spoke about joining TikTok in 2019, and you were already, fairly well established on other platforms. What is it about TikTok, do you think, that has made your content so successful and has ensured that you've been able to be so powerful on a platform like that?
So I think TikTok came at a time when there weren't any short format social media platforms which really prioritized videos. Instagram had a video function, but they didn't have the organic reach that anyone else did. And it was more of a celebrity platform almost, where you'd have pictures, static, things like that. It was all very static. Same with Twitter, YouTube, the home of long form stuff. Yeah. So TikTok really capitalized on what Vine were doing back in the days and learned the mistakes Vine made and made it something better. And I think it really exploded when a lot of the amateur content, the rough footage was unpolished and just authentic stuff. People loved it. And it was so perfectly timed. Pandemic, people at home, lockdown, nothing to do but watch stuff. People don't necessarily just want to watch YouTube. They want quick scrolling of stuff, and TikTok just boomed.
And from a health perspective, what are the downsides? So obviously a lot's been written now about attention spans shrinking and kids in particular not being able to focus on things for a significant amount of time. But are there any other downsides, do you think, to a platform like TikTok and the way that it's taken over?
Well, I think a lot of it is there's something. So I'm not a neuroscientist, right? But I'm very interested in neuroscience and the brain, and I sort of read up a lot about that. So every time we go through something in our daily life, so say every single day you go to a coffee shop and you buy a coffee, and it's your favorite coffee shop, your brain makes predictions about that coffee. So you've been to that coffee shop 100 times, you love the taste of it, your brain has a prediction error. It's like an algorithm in your brain which predicts what it's going to taste like. one day you buy that coffee, it tastes worse than usual. So your brain is surprised, but in a bad way. So it readjusts its kind of mental model of how that coffee is going to be. So it's expecting it to be even worse next time. That's called a negative prediction error. Next day, you go to that same coffee store and you buy the coffee. Your brain thinks, oh, it might be bad. But actually, surprisingly, it tastes even better than usual. That's a positive prediction error. This is your brain making these micro calculations like a big supercomputer. Now, on social media, your brain is comparing all of these things it's seeing, these kind of filtered, beautiful images and all of those things, and it's making negative prediction errors all the time because it's comparing that to your expectation of real life. That filtered, fake, virtual life compared to your real life might be a lot worse than what you see on the highlight reels. So it's making constant negative prediction errors, which can actually drive harmful, disordered behaviors with food, with body image, with just, low mood. You're like, oh God, why isn't my life like that? So I think that's one of the real dangers of social media.
I'm a bit blown away by that answer, to be honest. I was going to ask, with these errors, so like, for example, the coffee shop scenario you mentioned, so could that one error of having the bad coffee affect like your mood long term, say throughout the day, from just one error?
It won't affect your mood from that one error, but if you're persistently, so all our bodies are, differently wired and built on a genetic level. But if you might have more of a reaction to that negative prediction error than Stevie, for example. I might have an even worse, even more sensitive to that. And that is definitely thought to be a contributory factor to low mood and depression, being more sensitive to negative prediction errors and having a lower response to positive prediction errors. So it can have an impact,
So with the social media impact that you've spoken about there, then would you say for the general public and the way that people's thought processes are nowadays and with mental health, does social do more harm than good then?
It's difficult to say because from what I've seen, I like to say that my feed is generally like a nice place where I've curated it to see what I want to see. Kind of science stuff, maybe some comedy, journalism type stuff and news. And so for me, I learn stuff from social media, and I'm hoping the content I put out, I'm teaching other people. So I think it's... So even walking in today, some guy saw me when I was walking from the station to the studio here, and he said, Dr. Karan, are you Dr. Karan? And I said, yeah. And he was like talking to me for a little bit. He was like, you know what? I love your stuff. Generally, it's like life-changing. Thank you so much. Keep it up. So that for him, he's had a positive experience of social media. But, there are harms as well. And I think it's just a balance. Is it more harmful than good? I don't think so.
Yeah. I miss the days when people used to come up to me. It doesn't happen anymore.
I did it.
Yeah. I mean, at the start you did. Yeah. Thanks for that, actually. It's made my day. That's the positive thing going forward.
Do you ever fear being labeled with spreading misinformation yourself?
Hasn't happened so far. And what I do is I always make sure I fact check everything I put out, because I talk about more than what my specialty is. I'm a general surgeon, so I deal with kind of, the whole digestive system. So I feel confident talking about that stuff. If I'm talking about neuroscience or brain health or heart health, I do my research. And as a doctor, I've learned enough critical appraisal skills that I can do my research on papers online and give the audience simplified takeaways that I'm not too far outside my wheelhouse.
Following on from Jake's question there, do you ever feel nervous about the power or authority that you have both to your mass following, but also for the patient in the operating room?
I haven't felt nervous until recently, where more patients that I'm about to operate on or I see in the hospital recognize me now from online, which is a little bit sometimes disconcerting. I'm like, wow, the pressure is on now. Before I was just posting stuff online and obviously not having interaction with those people following me. But now those same people who follow me or watch me or know of me are in the hospital, because the UK is a small country. And, if I've got 10 million followers across social media, there's bound to be a few people that I bump into on a daily basis that may know who I am. It's a little bit scary. Like, what do I do with that?
Has there ever been a moment when you've thought about stopping social media because of I'm getting too well known, it's affecting my job as a surgeon. Like, have you ever thought about just stopping social media altogether?
I've never thought about stopping social media just because it's such a fun outlet for me.
Yeah.
It's like almost like a hobby. Like you'd go to the gym or I'd go for a dog walk. I enjoy making stuff. I even enjoy the editing, the scripting, the research. So I would never stop it because it's depriving me of like a passion and a hobby.
Yeah. And I think as well, the impact that you can have with your content. I read the article that you wrote for The Guardian, and one of the things that I wrote down from it was, you want to put out accessible, achievable advice that can change lives, which I think is just such an amazing way of putting it. And why would you want to give that up if you can have that impact?
I just want to touch on your book. Obviously, you wrote a best-selling book, went to number 1 on Amazon.
This book may save your life.
This book may save your life, yeah. Firstly, I don't know how you have enough hours in the day to do everything that you do. Nearly 10 million followers on social media, an author of a number 1 book, NHS surgeon, author of, host of a podcast. What was the I know it took you a couple of years to write the book. What sparked writing the book? Was it because of your work on social? Just touch on that a little bit if you don't mind.
I always harbored some aims of writing a book. I didn't think it would be at this point, or I thought maybe I'd just write one myself and self-publish or whatever. But sort of around 2021, I got an email from someone who follows me, who also happened to be an editor at Penguin.
Oh, wow.
And they were like, have you ever thought about writing a book? And, this and that. And I was like, hell yeah.
Yeah.
And then I was like, Penguin, Jesus Christ, I grew up reading all these Penguin classics. So absolutely. Interestingly, this could have never happened, right? Because the year before that, I was emailed by someone. I don't know if I should say the marketing agency or the.
You can say it. We can cut it out if it needs to be.
From.
Yeah.
Right? Emailed me and said, have you thought about writing a book? And this is when I was even more naive in social media. And I said, oh, I'd love to. And they sent out a contract to me and said, okay, get writing the book. And I was writing the book, and the contract didn't mention anything about advances or anything like that at all. She was acting as like a literary agent. So basically, retrospectively looking back on that, it was just a contract to say, we own your book, you write a book and we'll promote it and whatever.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I never signed that contract just because I was so busy with things. I never got around to signing it. And then this Penguin thing came along and I just completely ignored that. And it was great because that could have just completely screwed the pooch.
Yeah.
Well, no longer exists.
No.
Did they not?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, wow.
I think it was because there were unsigned contracts. I'm joking.
I destroyed.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if you what kind of top tips would you share to other content creators, not necessarily in the health space, but to those who want to share informational content and not come across as if they're spreading misinformation? What would your top tips be for content creation in that space?
I think, if you're putting out information on educational content online, you have a burden of responsibility where it's got to be accurate. Because there are people who just see you online and see you're a doctor or scientist or whatever and automatically think you know what you're talking about. There's an authority bias there. So if you don't do your due diligence, even if you're not trying to spread misinformation and you just look something up and you've just taken it from Wikipedia, it's probably not enough for you to authoritatively say, yes, this is accurate. So I would say make sure you do your due diligence and research the hell out of anything, because this could actually affect people's health.
Yeah.
If I was talking about tips for constipation and I was talking about all sorts of things I just quickly read online or searched from ChatGPT, are you sure that is legit? So actually be very careful, because people could end up more unwell in the hospital and in the worst case scenarios, dead. If you say, okay, you should eat this or whatever.
Yeah.
So number one thing is research, but also just generally, if you're trying to grow and be more accessible, you have to stay consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think consistency guarantees success, but you cannot be successful without consistency. It's a prerequisite for success, I think, online.
That's a theme that comes up quite constantly when we speak to other people on this podcast.
Do you plan like your content that much in advance? Like, do you have a bit of a content calendar, or do you kind of just make what you feel like making at the time?
In an ideal world, I would love to plan it, because that would give me a bit more breathing space in the week. And I'm not gonna lie, I do get a little bit restless when I go a day without posting. I'm like, I really love to have posted something.
Yeah.
But also, I think being a bit more spontaneous and reactive instead of proactive works in my favor, because something new might come up today. I'm like, oh wow, let me make a video about that.
Yeah.
And around the time when a lot of people were jumping on the, Princess Catherine bandwagon about, has she got cancer? What's going on there? A lot of people were jumping on that and being trying to basically go viral on someone else's tragedy.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to put out a video then just to clarify, it's none of our information, it's none of our business, but actually just explaining around, why wasn't it released before? Why wasn't the information released before? And explaining it from like an oncology cancer point of view, like this is why it took so long, like very information, nothing to do with, Kate, just talking about this. And so for me, sometimes the reaction and spontaneity works, but I'd love to plan more in advance because, you just feel more at ease.
Yeah.
But then I think you can feel overly produced if you do that.
Yeah, like you said, like we've already harped on the fact that authentic content often comes across better, and especially on TikTok, being able to react to something, which is like a lot of what you do, right? Reacting to myths and stuff is always the kind of the magic ingredient.
Yeah. Well, look, Dr. Karan, it's been fascinating. One of the most fascinating conversations
really
I think we've had, and your passion around what needs to be done around the spread of misinformation. And I'm looking at other people and those health gurus out there in a different light now as well. But it's been such an enjoyable time sitting down with you. Thanks for coming in on your day off, Superman, with all the different things that you're doing. I really appreciate it, and I can't wait to see this back.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys.
And that's it. Thanks so much to you for listening, and of course to Dr. Karan for coming in, sharing his story and helping us answer the question, does social media do more harm than good? I feel like we got an answer.
Yeah, I think coffee enemas more harmful than social media.
So good. We've got plenty more episodes on the way and a whole backlog of ones for you to watch and listen back to, so make sure you hit follow in your podcast app.
And as the marketing guy at Disrupt, it's my job to say that you should come and say hello to our agency if you think we can be any help to either to you or to your brand. All the details for the agency and Stevie and I will be in the show notes. We'll see you in the next episode.
Looking forward to it. Bye.